Hello to my earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus and Virgo. Welcome to the Capricorn full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Capricorn Rising, welcome to your reading for the Capricorn full moon, happening very, very soon, this Sunday the 21st of July at 8:19 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Hi, how are you? I hope that you're doing great. I'm so sorry that I've been away for so long. At the last full moon, I got super, super sick. My body just gave way to this huge fever, and I got quite sort of manic in my thought process too. I dropped my phone on the train and I couldn't, it was a disaster. And I felt my world slipping away from me. Everything that I was wrestling with to try and grow and to build, it all just disintegrated into dust for a time, for a moment. And it was really scary. I felt myself going on a journey again, back down to my own personal underworld. And it was in that familiarity, in that darkness, that I rubbed my little hands together and I clapped and I brought the fairy back to life, because I realized that once my eyes had adjusted, I was pretty familiar with the underworld. I knew where I was, and I knew that there was power for me in that place. We've talked a lot about Pluto, you and I, Capricorn Rising. We've talked a lot about the philosophy or the definition of a Pluto transit and what that might mean for someone. We've talked a lot about the idea of Pluto being the lord of the underworld, the god of everything that is hidden beneath the earth's crust, the keeper of secrets, the one that will decimate something in order to clear the land for new fertile growth to emerge. There's a queen of the underworld too. Her name in the Roman is Proserpina. She is the daughter of the goddess Ceres in the Roman. Now, I'll paraphrase very quickly, but I'm sure I've told you the story before about Ceres and the abduction of Proserpina, how she was dragged to the underworld by Pluto. There's great marble statues by Bernini that articulate this incredible moment in their mythology. A huge marble statue called the Rape of Proserpina. It's breathtaking in its horrific beauty. Ceres was furious at her brother Jupiter for allowing this to happen, because it was in fact Jupiter that gave the say-so for Proserpina to be abducted. And so Ceres, in her great quest, was on the pathway to retrieval, to find her daughter and to bring her back. She wept tears of poppies in the wheat fields in grief. She searched and searched. Meanwhile, Proserpina was in the underworld, and she ate the pomegranate seeds that Pluto offered her. And in that moment, there was a pact between the two. The food of the underworld bound her to her duty, her station as the queen of the underworld. And I think that there was parts of Proserpina that liked it. So as the mythology moves along, the bargain was struck. Ceres could have her daughter back for 6 months out of the year. And for the other 6 months, it was her mission to rule as the queen of the underworld. This story gives us some sense of autonomy over our struggle. It gives us some sense of power when thinking about our own battle with the underworld. This journey that some of us go on, if we can work with it, we can remember that there is no light without shadow. And so much of this work, so much of the journey, the quest that we're all looking for is a promised land of light and happiness and peace, finally. We've got to remember that there's no light without shadow. The moon has a really good way of reminding us that. The moon has a really good way of illuminating the darkness for us. And so at this full moon in Capricorn, it's illuminating your first house, your soul's rising intention. It's co-present with Ceres, the asteroid, the one on the quest to retrieve what was taken. Proserpina, the queen of the underworld, is co-present with Jupiter at this time. And in fact, the Cancer new moon that I missed out on was the reason why I started this education, because I had to make sense of it for myself. I had to understand this perpetual journey to the underworld is for some sort of purpose. And my stay in the underworld becomes shorter and shorter as I contend with that, and as I remember the beauty of my darkness too. So looking at your birth chart, Capricorn Rising, this moment of connection between Jupiter and Proserpina, Jupiter exacerbating, growing, magnifying the essence of Proserpina. This is happening in your 6th house of your rhythm, your work, your repetition. In fact, this is the place that we left off at the Gemini new moon, the last that we spoke. So all the while, the queen of the underworld was there, the one that ate the pomegranate seeds, the one that is going to help us through whatever difficulty or conflict or struggle that we might feel that we're in. Pluto is going to re-enter Capricorn for a couple of months from September at the final degree, at 29 degrees of Capricorn, where this full moon is taking place right now. So it's almost like a spotlight ready for entry for Pluto. We won't experience Pluto in Capricorn again in our lifetimes, Capricorn Rising. So let's take the advice. Let's discover what this moment has been for together. I know it's been really confronting, and Pluto, in my work, in the folks that I've spoken to with Capricorn placements, with a Capricorn rising, there has been such incredible breadth of experience with a Pluto transit. Now we've got something else in our back pocket. Proserpina was discovered in 1856, for those playing at home, if you need validity, 50 years after Ceres was. And so what I want for all of us is to be able to call upon Proserpina when we need to. Remember that there's an even playing field here between the Lord of the Manor and the Lady of the House. I'm going to put in the comments below, there's an incredible song by Martha Wainwright called Proserpina. It's on from the perspective of the mother child of Ceres. It was written by Martha Wainwright's mother, and she performed it just once and then passed away. And so Martha Wainwright put it on record and put it on her album, Come Home to Mama. It's a beautiful visual representation too of the underworld journey. I'll put it in the comments, you might enjoy it at this time. This moment in our culture, this moment in time, does feel really pivotal. And there's a lot of conversation around sort of old structures crumbling. It's what we do to rebuild new structures, or to build new structures, I should say, that is going to make the difference. So when thinking about Saturn and Jupiter, thinking about the old guard and the new guard, it really will be up to us to rebuild together, that is using separate material than what occurred in the past. the story of Saturn and Jupiter and the overthrowing of power. Saturn was a Titan god, so he was father of the Olympian gods. And in his haste to maintain control and to hold on to power, he ate all of his children, lest they overthrow him. Jupiter was saved by his mother, and when he came of age, he came back to Saturn and forced him to vomit up all of his kids, and then the Olympian gods took over, and he was castrated and in disgrace. So you can sort of feel that in the world around us. There's call for this, but it's what are we going to build from the rubble? What new structures of living are we going to instill? What values are we going to instill in our children as far as our sense of community responsibility, as far as our sense of compassion and love for our fellow human being, as far as removal of the chains that bind those that still live in servitude for the privileged few to enjoy a wonderful life. All of these things need to have a proper resolution and proper solutions rather than chaos. So let's work with that too. Saturn is your guiding light. The container of the old guard is very good for you. Karmic retribution is something that you're really good at working with. We're moving into a space in August where there is going to be the clash of the Titans, a square between Jupiter and Saturn. It will be affecting your 3rd house and your 6th house. What I really like about this for you, Capricorn Rising, is the 3rd house is the house of the goddess. So let's work with that as an idea moving forward. How do we enact goddess worship in a way that is fruitful and bountiful for everyone? Maybe in that story of Proserpina there might be some clues for you that when in company with folks that you can register are in doing their work in the underworld, guiding them and helping them to remember Proserpina, remember the queen of the underworld. Remember she is the one that reminds us that everything fades, everything dies. It's what we do with our time here that makes the difference. Sadness and melancholy are not personality defects. There's something to be worked with and something to be tended to for oneself. It's the responsibility of oneself to work with this underworld. And it's also a great privilege to help other folks that you can tell are suffering and to provide them with as much comfort and warmth as they might need in order to do their very personal, private, powerful healing work. Whatever it is that came before Capricorn Rising, whatever sharper truth that you were given, whatever reality check that was sort of handed to you at this time, I really admire you that it's been conditioning and practice that you've put into play as a response to that. I really admire that you've decided to finesse your strategy and finesse your skill in a different way that is like a go-around, a workaround from this kind of harsher reality. I really like that you've decided to do it anyway, that you will find magic in the ways that you know how to, because you're tenacious. That roadblock may have shown itself to you, and that's okay, that's fine. I don't think that it was meant with ill faith either. I think that this was sort of said to you as a sort of kind of sobering reality, that this is the reality of this moment, this is what's going to happen, this is the parameters. So how can you work within the parameters to make it magic? I'm reminded of Saturn and Pisces in the house of the goddess, actually. That's a nice little connection there. Yeah. Off you go. Go make it happen. I believe you. You've been practicing for all of this time. You can make something out of nothing wherever you go. That's always been your skill, Capricorn Rising. I'm really proud that you've decided to work with this roadblock or this sterner advice, but you're still on the road to creating something. I'm reminded of one of my favorite artworks. It's called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. It's a book and a movie, and the lead character is Sissy Hankshaw. I'm always reminded of her whenever I think about the beginning of a magical journey, and some of us feel like we thrive when we get to move around, when we have a greater sense of movement, a greater sense of freedom. And I'm really proud of you, Capricorn Rising, that you're allowing yourself some of that. So keep it going. Parameters, yes. Reality check, yeah. But you've been finessing that magic, so I trust you. I trust it if I were you. Believe it and let him have it. Thanks for being here with me, Capricorn Rising. I love you very much. If you are still here with me, throw a comment down below. That would be really lovely. I'd like to hear from you. I know it's been a long time and I'm paranoid about falling out of favor. If you would like me to read your birth chart, I will draw you one. They look like this. And you can head to my website, umaruby.com, and I will read it to you via Zoom. If you would like to support my work, you can head to buymeacoffee.com and put some money in the tip jar. And there's also an option to subscribe for 10 Australian dollars a month. Finally, if you're in Melbourne town for the next month, starting from the full moon in Capricorn, I'm going to be giving live readings on Sundays at the Nicholas Building in the city at Muses of Mystery. So if you'd like to make an appointment with me face to face, head to their website. I'll include that in the description down below too. Much love to you, Capricorn Rising. I look forward to seeing you very soon. And best of luck. You got this, babe. Go get it. Hello, Taurus Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Capricorn full moon, happening very soon, this Sunday, the 21st of July at 8:19 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Hi, how are you? It's nice to see you. I'm sorry it's been so long. I got very, very sick at the last full moon, so much so that my responsibilities all fell by the wayside. I found it very difficult to make sense of my own thoughts and my ability to understand and articulate what it was that I was seeing in my study, in my textbooks, in my, reading of the map of the sky and my tarot cards. Everything became really muddy and I lost a bit of faith in everything too, which was quite spooky for someone that has grown to rely on this work as sustaining and something that feeds me and gives me purpose. And so the physical symptom of my body was really emanating the causality in my mind. My anxiety had reached a certain point and I didn't quite realize that until it hit the body. And so it took me then on a journey into the underworld. And so we'll be talking a lot about journeys to the underworld in this reading. So if that's not what you're in the mood for, Taurus Rising, full respect, I understand. I'll see you next time. But I'm looking at your birth chart as well, and I'm wondering what we have in common in this current texture of time. I know that there was something incredibly combative and incredibly robust and quite violent that occurred in the astrology on the 16th of this month. So very soon, not in the very, very recent past, that potentially may have galvanized your sense of conviction. It doesn't look like there are any winners in this moment, though. It does feel, and I'll explain why. So what I'm talking about is the conjunction between Mars, which represents our valor, and it can also represent our rage too. Mars came into exact conjunction with Uranus, which is the rebel spirit within each and every one of us. So Rage Against the Machine, it occurred on the 16th of July, concurrently with that configuration, it all landed at 26 degrees of Taurus, which sits the fixed star, which a fixed star means that they don't, from our perspective, they're too far away to recognize any sort of orbit around the sun. They're not orbiting our sun, they're out there in the stratosphere. This fixed star is called Algol, or the demon star, and in the constellation, it represents the head of Medusa. So it's the constellation Perseus. It represents the severed head of Medusa. And this is where we're sort of going a little deeper here. The fixed star, the demon star, has many different connotations from many different astrologers all over the world for thousands of years. But when it comes to this current texture of time, it's imperative that we talk about a redefinition. We talk about our ability as receptors of these mythologies, and we talk about the idea of redefining these archetypes, as it were, in our psyche. The head of Medusa, to me personally, has always been an emblem of power. I was a dark child, and I really liked the shadow dwellers more than I did the light givers. And so when it came to Medusa, that was one of the mythologies that I really took hold of. I loved her so much. In fact, I think in horoscopes last year we talked a lot about Algol and Medusa. In that horoscope, we also talked a lot about Athena, her sister, and we talked about the idea of, in the mythology, it was Athena that cursed Medusa with the hair of snakes and the gaze of stone. Part of that story is the violation of Medusa that we must speak about too. And so in the mythology, it was a violation of Medusa that spurred on her condemnation. And so this is reminding me of the importance of redefining the mythology. There's a beautiful writer called Nikita Gill, and she writes or retells the story of Medusa insofar as Athena, her sister, trying to protect her from further violation. And so she turned her hair to snakes. She gave her a steely gaze that no one would violate her ever again. She did the best that she could with what she had at the time. And so thinking about this moment of rage at 26 degrees of Taurus and thinking about the head of Medusa, the one that would spit fire, the one that would tell everyone to back off. You will never touch me again. Something about, I'm going to cry. It's heart-wrenching. And I understand that rage. I really do. And I understand the responsibility for us all to work with that rage and to transform it into something else. I really understand that sincerely. I don't understand the impulse of violence. That's not in my nature. I understand the inability that some of us have to deal with rage. Now I'm speaking to Taurus risings, so we know that Taurus is the sign that would much prefer to listen to the guidance of Venus, would much prefer to listen to the guidance of love and creativity and pleasure and beauty. But at this time, not so long ago, it was Mars and Uranus and Medusa that made this conjunction. So there's something about rage here, Taurus rising. There's something about what are we going to do with that now? How are we going to work with that rage moving forward? This Capricorn full moon is lighting up your 9th house, the house of the gods, the house of your spirituality. That was the one that I missed as well on the 22nd of June. There are 2 full moons in Capricorn this year. This is the second. So the sun is in Cancer, in your 3rd house of the goddess. The sun is beaming its light to your house of the gods. The sun is in support, union with Neptune in Pisces. Okay? So what I'm telling you here is that we're going to ask our dreams. We're going to connect with folks in our community if that's something that we feel resonant with, because this rage feels quite separatist. But there's something about reforming a relationship with our house of the goddess, and it's the feminine principle, as Demetra George says, the re-emerging feminine that has handle on the spotlight, that's lighting up the moon, the very emanation of our sorrow and our gentility and our yearning to feel. Another story of the goddesses that's come up for everyone, and for me specifically, has been that of Pluto and Proserpina and Ceres. And these asteroids are all singing to each other at this time too. So as much as we know that Pluto is the lord of the underworld, the grand destructor, the one that lords over everything that is hidden, that brings things up from beneath the surface to be looked at, and is actually right next to the moon as we speak. There's also a queen of the underworld, and her name is Proserpina. And the story is another story of abduction and potential violation. Proserpina was the daughter of Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, and with Jupiter's permission, Proserpina was abducted by Pluto and dragged to the underworld because she was so beautiful that he couldn't resist. And so in the underworld, Proserpina found her power. She ate the seeds of a pomegranate, which is the food of the underworld, and if you do that, you can't leave. All the while Ceres was on a grand quest to find her daughter and to bring her back. In her rage, the crops and the harvest grew cold and froze over. Now, Proserpina was doing her own work in the underworld. Less captive. Once her eyes adjusted to the light, she could see that she belonged in the underworld for a time, that she had station in the underworld as the queen, the lady of the house. Proserpina teaches us about the beauty of our darkness, Taurus Rising. It teaches us about the majesty and the power of our shadow. As beautiful as our light is, we can't have light without our shadow. And Proserpina teaches us that we can have both. And then when it's time to descent into the underworld, we need a safe space to land. We need good community around us supporting us. And we also hold our conviction that this is our responsibility to work in the darkness, to heal where we need to heal, and to rise up again. In the astrology, the asteroid Ceres was in exact conjunction with Jupiter at the Cancer new moon. And this is the time that I was reading, that I had to understand perhaps why this was happening to my inner workings again, why I had come back to this darker place. The asteroid Ceres, as it stands right now, is in Capricorn, soon to meet up again with Pluto. The last time that Pluto and Ceres were together was January of 2020. And so we register that point in time, and we register that they are beginning a new cycle. This new cycle of retrieval, of finding Proserpina and bringing her back to the living world, is coloured with something different now, because we're confident in our darkness. We know that we can rely on one another and our friendships in the darkness, but we also know that we find our beauty there sometimes too. Some of us were weird kids, and we remain that way. It's how we relate to that part of ourselves that really makes the difference. And after a lifetime of being told that your darkness is unattractive or ugly or annoying or a hindrance or selfish, we learn to be ashamed of our darkness. But this is where Proserpina helps us remember that there is beauty there. I'm going to get you some tarot, Taurus Rising. Somewhere in your space, your head space, I want you to make room for the question of what we're going to do from here, how we're going to find, I was going to say revenge, how we're going to find absolution, or how we're going to make amends for the parts of us that feel like Medusa and the parts of us that feel like Proserpina. Here you are, in the center of the reading. When your bridge is open, Taurus Rising, you're more magical than all of us. You're the one that keeps feet firmly planted in reality, in this dimension, to receive the messages from the next. And I think that if we can move away from this moment of feeling left out or feeling not included, this light that's emanating from inside this space, this safe space, wasn't for you at that time. And it hurt to be cast aside. I fully respect that. But look at you now. Look what you've done with that rejection. You've turned it into something really noble and really beautiful, and you've kept your heart open. You haven't closed off like so many of us have at times, and how tempting it is to close off, to close off, to close off, to become small, or to become spiny, to become Medusa. You've worked with that to a point where you've found yourself by the stream again, and there you are, the little magical one, the dark one, the weird one. You found your way back to that version of yourself, and this time they have encouragement. This time they have love, unconditional. This time they're being encouraged to journey and explore the way that their mind and their creativity works. This time they're welcome. This time they're protected. So much love to you, Taurus Rising. All my very best love and support at this full moon in Capricorn. It is highlighting a part of our chart, of your chart, that may trigger feelings of isolation. So I want to beam my heart out to yours and help you understand that you are welcome here, and that you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself and that includes all of us. And it's really pretty. If you're still here with me, Taurus, please just put a comment. I don't care what you say, just say hello. I'll write back to you in the comments section. My paranoia has me feeling that I've left it too long and I'll be punished. If you would like me to read your birth chart, I'll draw you one that looks like that, and you can make your appointment at umaruby.com. If you'd like to support my work, you can put some money in the tip jar at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And if you live in Melbourne town, I will, from this full moon in Capricorn, be offering live readings for 1 month at Muses of Mystery in the city. I'll leave the link in the description below. You can make your live appointment with me via their website. yeah, so if you wanted a face-to-face reading with the tarot, I'd be most welcome to sit and help you through. Much love to you, Taurus Rising. I'll be with you and we'll speak about the Leo new moon. We'll also speak about diversifying my commitment to this work and to making sure that it's helpful and for you and for me. So I'll speak to you soon. Much love. Bye. Hello Virgo Rising, welcome to your reading for the Capricorn full moon happening extremely soon on Sunday the 21st of July at 8:19 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Hi, how you going? I'm so sorry that it's been so long. I got very, very sick at the last full moon, which was on the 22nd of June. So sick in fact that I couldn't commit, I couldn't make sense of the work. I don't know if that's ever happened to you where you are in process of learning something and at one point in the journey it becomes like absolute word salad again and it makes no sense to you, and every meaning that you found and every resonance and every flow state that you were in became like static. That's what I was really experiencing mentally. Physically, my body pulled the plug on that and made me very, very sick. I had this fever and I could do nothing but tend to my organism. I was also taking care of a little puppy dog that needed a lot of guidance too, so we were good company together. Not only that, I dropped my phone on the train and I had no phone and it was a mess. You know, I was like, oh, everything's over. I've effed it all up. That's my little journey over the last month. I wonder how yours has been. This full moon that we're looking at, Virgo Rising, is lighting up your fifth house of your creativity, your sexuality, your self-expression. And this is the second full moon in Capricorn that we've had this month. The moon that I missed in June was also a full moon in Capricorn. Then there was a new moon in Cancer, and now a second full moon in Capricorn. So all is not lost. I found the last month to be very beneficial once I understood the point of the assignment. That trip to the underworld of my anxiety really had its grip around my ankles for a little while, and I was so ashamed that I had found myself back in this sort of mind frame or back into this sort of relationship with myself. I couldn't believe the things that I was thinking about myself and the lack of ability that I had to gain pleasure from anything. It was a much shorter space of time that I spent in the underworld than from times gone by in my life. However, in this time, I learned that as much as Pluto is the lord of the underworld, as we know by now in our chats together, Pluto rules over everything that is hidden and will excavate and will destroy. We know that Pluto in the grand mythologies has a lot of different journeys and stories and tales attached to his rulership over the underworld. For folks that are perhaps a bit repellent towards patriarchal domination, it's also comforting to know that there is indeed a queen of the underworld. Her name is Proserpina. And she is in fact the deity that was kidnapped by Pluto and dragged to the underworld. Ceres was her mother. So Ceres is the goddess of agriculture, the one that would take care of fertile soil and the crops and the harvest and maintain enough food and nourishment for humankind. The pastor nonna, perhaps, of the zodiac. Ceres went on a grand quest of retrieval to find her daughter Proserpina. She was furious that someone would kidnap her, that Jupiter would give permission. And the crops and harvest went into winter and froze over in her absence. She cursed humankind with hunger until she got back what was rightfully hers. Meanwhile, underneath the Earth's surface, in the underworld, sat Proserpina, and she was just as beautiful and just as powerful and just as intelligent and just as in control of her autonomy as she was in the upper world. and her eyes had finally adjusted and she could see in the dark. She ate the pomegranate seeds that were on offer from Pluto, and that was a pact. The food of the underworld has a responsibility, and you must journey back. And so Ceres made a pact with Pluto, as did Proserpina, that Proserpina would exist for 6 months of the year above ground in the fertile springtime with her mother, tending to the crops, and 6 months of the year she would descend into the underworld and tend to her responsibilities in the shadow. This mythology helped me, and it just so happened that the asteroid Proserpina was in exact conjunction with Jupiter at the time that I was learning about this and feeding my soul with more mythology to make sense of what on earth it was that I was going through. And let's face it, I'm absolutely separating my soul work and my spirituality from the very true and very real experience of anxiety that permeates our culture right now. And I'm not trying to explain anybody's troubles away with this. I'm just offering it to you because it provided me with some comfort, and it's helped me to reclaim my autonomy in the darkness, to understand that perhaps somebody like me has a real connection with Proserpina, the queen of the underworld. And I look back in reflection on my time here and look how unconsciously, beautifully well I worked with that over time in the art that I created, in the way that I didn't allow the darkness to detract from my beauty, as it were. I think all the way back to when I was a very weird, strange child and was so attracted to the darkness, was not frightened of the dark, would howl at the moon unconsciously. I make friends with that part of myself again. This is goddess work. And so now I'm ready to ascend. Now I'm ready to come back to earth, to reconnect with the Ceres principle in me, the one that wishes to nurture. And I can carry forward. And I will always remember that there's no light without the shadow. And so we've got to respect both. Ceres is in Capricorn right now in your 5th house. So there's a strong emphasis on nurturing, caretaking, caring for the small, caring for oneself. There's also Proserpina in your 10th house, your most public-facing self. We're moving into this moment that feels like the clash of the titans. So we've got patriarchal dominance and an old guard falling and a new guard beginning, but they're both kind of using the same brute force at present. Saturn and Jupiter are going to form an exact square in August, and this is going to be affecting us the world over, but we can already see it now, and it's been our sort of responsibility to commit to our own needs and be a bit of a nurturer for our own self as we sort of rally and rise against this reality. Saturn was the king of the Titans. There's a painting by Goya it's called Saturn Eating His Child, or Saturn Eating His Son, and it's really horrific. It's an image of this gargoyle chowing down, eating a child, because the legend goes the Titan gods, especially Saturn, refused to let go of their power. There was a prophecy that his children would eventually overthrow him, and so he ate them all so that that wouldn't happen. He digested them. Jupiter was saved by his mother, and so it took a while, and he came of age and came back for redemption and forced Saturn to vomit up all of his children. And this is where Venus was born. This is where all of these different gods of the Olympian pantheon emerged triumphant. And Saturn was cast asunder, castrated, and left in disgrace. So externally, we can feel this clash right now, and we can also register the techniques that the new guard, as it were, are displaying that are very similar to the old guard, and that will be their responsibility to reconcile. on a very internal level, Virgo rising, you might be feeling something like this within you, a push and a pull of old structures, old systems of being, old ways of operating, and a new way of being and operating, a new persona, a new guise, both having something to do with authority. There might be some sort of gateway that you're stepping through that has you as an authority figure from a long period of time, thinking that you were not so, that you were not ready to be an authority on anything. It's hitting your 7th house and your 10th house, so it's your relationships and your public-facing self. This is by the by, but I just encourage you to sit with that internal conflict. If the conversations around Proserpina and Ceres have been valuable too, remember that each of these stories exist within us somewhere. This person can be emblematic of that person in our life. This God, this deity can be emblematic of us, a side of us. Everything's existing, and this work works when it can tell our story back to us and give our struggle, give our consequence, give our circumstance some sort of context. One of my favorite astrologers, Chani Nicholas, is very good at dealing with context and using this teaching style to provide a sense of understanding for the current moment and a sense of clarity in a very busy mind. I think that so many of us are feeling this exacerbation of Gemini and this internal struggle so literally that hopefully this work can be used as a moment to step back into the room rather than to fly off the handle into the danger of prophecy. And that's advice for me, and that's advice for everyone that wants to maintain a sense of calm and a sense of clarity. Yeah. It can be so seductive to use these tools to prophesize the future. And in fact, yeah, that's up for the practitioner to decide. That's all I'll say about that. So we're going to be zoning in on the Ceres archetype. Ceres, Demeter, the mother, the Queen of Pentacles, the one that gestates and grows, the one that nourishes, the one that feeds. What it looks like to me, Virgo rising, is that there was a plan that was set for you some time ago. You saw the goal, and now potentially you've reached the goal. And what we're moving towards is something that does feel that it's going to unearth some of your emotional reactions to life again. Maybe somewhere in there, Virgo rising, you've had to steal over in some way. There's had to be some sort of protective barrier that you've been keeping your emotions safe. You've been keeping your emotional reaction at bay. But I think after this moment, the feeding frenzy that Ceres is going to enact for you on a soul level internally, however this is hitting for you, there's a reconnection here and there's a gestation period here. We're growing something right now, Virgo rising, and it's going to bring up a lot of emotions. So you need to be in good company with people that are available for those emotions, that know those rhythms and those cycles, and that maybe don't have all of the answers, but definitely have the capability to learn the answers and to help you through this next bit of time. The portal's been open. You've taken the offer and you're stepping into this. I'll remind you that in 2020, January of 2020, the asteroid Ceres and Pluto came together at 22 degrees of Capricorn. And so they're finishing up their own cycle Ceres has made its way around. 4.5 years later, we'll be coming back together with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And so a journey of searching, of retrieval, of nurturing is coming to a close, and we're about to start a brand new one at a very pivotal, very powerful degree of the sign Aquarius. Looking at your birth chart, Virgo rising, that's your 6th house. So that's your health, your body. Let's keep that in good health, shall we? Because this gestation feels quite grand to me. And you're going to need a healthy mind, healthy body, healthy emotional state to contend with this. I'm very proud of you that you've committed to this archetype. I'm very glad that Ceres came to visit us in those last cards too. One more thing I'll say before we go. Because it was Ceres, we must remember that all of the classic deities weren't all malevolent or benevolent. I can't pronounce those words, you know what I mean? They weren't only this or that. They all had light and shadow. They all had temperament. Ceres cursed someone, a king. His name was I can't pronounce it. Aristicon maybe. Forgive me. Ugh, embarrassing. Anyway, let me finish it up. We'll call him Aristicon. He started chopping down trees in Ceres' grove, and she came to Earth and was like, stop doing that, stop taking what you don't need. And he's like, F you, this is mine, I'll take what I want. And so she cursed him with eternal hunger. And no matter what he had, he was never satisfied. And so he spent whatever fortune he had left on trying to satiate this hunger. He was eating everything. And eventually he ate his own body. He ate himself because nothing was ever enough. Now, I think that we can probably look around to different personalities on the world stage that have been cursed by Ceres, that no matter what they have, it's never enough. And that's their journey to contend with. When I think about Ceres and Capricorn, that story comes to mind too. So just beware, Virgo rising. Be grateful for what you've got. And if the hunger inside doesn't satiate, talk to Ceres, because there may have been something else that needs to be worked with. There may be more to excavate. I can say that because sometimes I've found myself in that place when nothing seems to make me happy. And it's often right before a trip to the underworld. So I'll leave that with you. Take good care of yourself, Virgo rising. I love you lots. I hope that that made sense to you and that it was worth the wait. If you're still here with me, put a comment in the box below. I don't mind what you say. Just make contact, because it's been a while and I'm paranoid that I've effed up my, that I'll be punished by the overlords. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I'll draw you one. They look like this, and you can make your appointment at umaruby.com. If you would like to support my work, you can head to buymeacoffee.com and put some money in the tip jar. You can also subscribe there for 10 Australian dollars a month. And if you're in Melbourne town, Melbourne city, over the next month, you can book a face-to-face reading with me if you'd like to meet, and I'll read your tarot cards. I'll be offering readings at the Nicholson Building. Forgive me, my words are gone. Nicholas Building in the city, Muses of Mystery. I'll put the description in the box below. You can make an appointment with me there if you'd like a face-to-face. That's it from me, love. Take good care. The new moon in Leo's coming up. Let's reconfigure and work on together the efficacy of such regular horoscopes. If it's better to do once a month, then I might do that and make them juicy. Sometimes we need time away in order to refine. I think that in this culture of overproduction, that can be really debilitating too, and in some ways can attest to that myth around Ceres and Aristicon. Take care. Bye.